Good day, students. Today we are going to study about diseconomies of scale. If we have a tutorial video about economies of scale, we have a reciprocal. This one is diseconomies of scale. What are we going to discuss today? First is the definition of the diseconomies of scale, the types of diseconomies of scale. Number three, what are the five types of internal diseconomies of scale, and what are the three types of external diseconomies of scale. All right, our learning outcomes. At the end of the tutorial video, students will be able to understand the concept and principles of these economies of scale. Number two, students will be able to differentiate the types of internal diseconomy of scale and the types of external diseconomies of scale. To proceed, these economies of scale, as you can see, is the opposite of the economies of scale. As you can see here, let's try to explain this in a layman's point of view. As you can see here in the economies of scale, as you increase the volume of your production, let's say this one, let's have some points. Let's say Q1, we have Q2, that's quarter first, second quarter, and third quarter. Okay. And this is quantity or volume. As you increased your production volume, your average cost goes down. As you increased, it goes down. However, for these economies of scale, it is totally opposite. As you increase production, your average cost tends to go up. Look at this one. After Q3, look at the trend of this one. It's increasing as you increase the volume production. Alright, let us give some concrete examples of these economies of scale. We have miscommunication or poor communication, inefficient management or mismanagement, motivation or demotivation, higher cost of natural materials or resources, and greater levels of debt and interest. So these are examples of these economies of scale that will cause your average cost to increase as you increase your volume of production or quantity of production. There are two types of these economies of scale, internal and external. This is also the same with economies of scale. We have internal and we have external. Of course, when we say intrinsic factors, these are factors that are directly controlled by the firm. While external, it refers to the intrinsic factors outside the firm's control. It occurs when the industry expands, meaning to say, if you are in the automobile industry, when you are in the manufacturing industry, let's say consumer goods, or let's say in semiconductor, okay, that industry where you are in expands, but your company or that firm did not adjust to that change. Okay? All right. So let us proceed. Let us discuss the five types of internal diseconomies of scale. Okay? Okay. So we have this technical diseconomies of scale. Okay? Again, this is uh, controllable by the firm. It occurs during the production process, meaning to say, if you have inputs and the next is process to convert this into outputs. Okay? So we are talking here of the transformation stage or the process stage. Okay? This is your output. So this technological or technical diseconomies of skill is referring to the process or transformation. This may be on the factory line, if that is a manufacturing. Service base, it could be behind the counter at a cafe or a worker at the office. So technical diseconomies of scale can happen as the firm expands quicker than it is able to adjust or adapt. These generally occur when a firm invests heavily in new capacity. So that is technical diseconomies of scale. You know? Like for example, if you during your processing, if you introduce some new machineries, but you did not adjust in the quantity of your employees, that is the disengage. So what is the effect? Overcrowding. Overcrowding, when expanding the firm may increase production beyond reasonable capacity. This may include too many baristers behind the bar at the coffee shop, no? Like for example, in a cafe, uh, for example, the existing demand is 100 customers, you have 5 employees. This is just an example. Now, there was an increase in demand. So, from 100 customers, you have 5 employees. So, meaning to say, you have 1 employee to 20 customers. However, the demand increases. It went up to 140. So, the company decided to increase 2 staff. However, because of the company size, you were not able to adjust with that. So, there is a duplication of duties and responsibilities. And, you know, uh, they may get in each other's way or end up duplicating the work. So that is what we called overcrowding. Number two is scalability. Although a store may be highly efficient in one location, the firm may expand into another that is not. In turn, the average cost of production increases. So that is scalability. The next is organization, organizational diseconomies of scale. No, it occurs when the firm is expanding, and then it occurred when a larger workforce becomes more difficult to manage. No, maybe the management ratio is that one manager to 50 employees, and then you increase your staff by 70 employees, all right, or maybe 100, and the current ratio now is maybe 80 employees to a manager. So that is the barrier of and difficulty in this organizational diseconomy. Another example may include inefficient communication, lack of motivation, greater sick days, lack of responsibility, or accountability of tasks. So what's the effect in terms of communication? That's effect number one. Okay. Organizational diseconomies occur when the firm expands. No? In turn, new departments open alongside new employees. For all involved, it can create a minefield. To get something done, an employee may need to go through various departments to find assistance. The big successful firms tend to resolve such issues, although some inefficiency may still occur. Demotivation. the firms grow bigger, there are also psychological issues that can arise. For instance, being one of the 500,000 employees can create a feeling of insignificance. Furthermore, managers may easily overlook any individual successes. As a result, employees can feel demotivated, thereby underperforming and creating inefficiencies. Another effect is employees' health, right? As stated previously, employees can feel like just another, cog in the wheel of a big firm. However, a big firm can also create a feeling of isolation for many. When there is a set and a standard procedure to follow, it can feel rather robotic. This sense of isolation and insignificance not only affects motivation as well as it affects the health. Okay? So the next is purchasing diseconomies. Again, as the firm expands, grow, the firm wants to acquire asset, good or service. It is willing to and able to do despite the price. No, they overpay sometimes for the good and service because the firm is so competitive now and want to increase their asset. Management may buy resources employees do not need or want. Purchasing decisions may go through round after round of approval or escalation or hierarchy, eventually getting blocked at the last stage. So what's the impact? What's the outcome of this? So higher cost is number one. Yes, as firms become increasingly willing to spend more, they are more likely to overpay for goods and services. In turn, this will end up impacting their bottom line, their profit. Greater waste is another one. As the firm gets, bigger, it becomes disconnect between management and the average employee. Consequently, the needs of the workers are often forgone and overlooked. Management may buy resources employees do not need or want. And deadlock, some large firms recognize that there are levels of reckless spending. As a result, purchasing decisions may go through round and round of approval, no hierarchy, until it's no longer unproductive, no, and in turn may not actually provide progress. Yung number four is competitive monopoly diseconomies. No? As the firm expands, market requires strong competition. Here, monopoly, if you are in a monopoly stage, it is also a disadvantage because you are not pushed by pressure because there's no competition. And because of competition, you try to improve your services, you try to innovate, you try to be creative on your end. However, if no competition, a firm has lessened incentive to increase their efficiency. So there's no competition that may put it out of the business. So there's no challenge at all of this competitive slash monopoly this economy. So what's the impact? More competition, it means to say if the monopolist firm allow itself to become bloated or inefficient, new firms may spot on opportunity to enter the market. In addition, high profit with large cost act as a signal to potential cost competitors. Higher cost. What is this? Companies that have significant market share usually have thousands of employees. As a result of its strong positioning, it may find management does not have the same incentives to implement universal efficiencies within the firm. And the last, the internal diseconomies, is financial diseconomy. Again, as the firm grows bigger, it may look to buy new factories or real estate, increasing their asset, their capital, and in turn, it will require new sources of funding. No? They will come, maybe an option is to find an external sources, no? Such as financial institutions like banks and other financial instruments. As a result, the firm will have to repay interest. This creates an additional cost that smaller firms do not always have. So this creates an internal diseconomies of scale. And what's the effect? The expanded workforce. Borrowing more asset requires more employees to oversee the finance as well as to manage those resources. By extension, this is also expand into organizational diseconomies. In turn, the firm may have to borrow even more. The second effect is high level of interest. When a firm use external finance to grow inorganically, it can become increasingly expensive to continue. The more a firm borrows, the riskier it becomes for investors. In turn, lenders account for the risk with higher interest rates. And now we go to the types of external diseconomy. The first one is diseconomies of pollution. We are talking here of the, you know, uh, pollution is not really um, you know, the organization cannot answer for this pollution control. However, it affects the employees and the local residents, no? Because pollution, again, is not a cost or a burden to the company, but it can have a heavy cost to both employees and the local residents. And there is, local or national pollution. As the firm expands, there is, an affluent that is being created. Like, for example, the wastewater treatment, it affects local and national pollution, such as, air and noise pollution. Take for example, if there is a new airport to be constructed, it creates the local and national, communities noise pollution. As a result, the house price may negatively be affected, because, let us discuss the impact. Poor health. Air pollution is known for its potential effects on respiratory health. Furthermore, there are other long-term side effects such as heart disease, lung cancer, and damage to people's nerve, brain, kidneys, and other internal organs. Especially when it comes to lower house prices, it talks about areas that are more prone to air and noise pollution and may lose value over time. For example, the new airport, it is creating noise. Therefore, the value of that property may depreciate because of that presence of noise pollution. The next is limited natural resources. No? Of course, when companies begin to expand, begin to grow, they all require a number of, natural resources. This could range from labor to land and all the factors of production. The fact is that as the industry goes larger, it uses more and more resources. That is correct. In turn, our existing resources is depleted and it becomes expensive because there is less supply and more demand. The law of supply and demand. And what's the impact of this? High prices to the consumer as natural, resource becomes, you know, um, lesser, rarer. It is inevitable that high prices will result. Of course, what is this higher salaries? Higher salaries for workers that are in short supply, it could mean higher salaries in the long run. Okay, a lot of supply and demand. And the last is infrastructure diseconomies. No? When we say infrastructure diseconomies, it occurs when an industry grows so large, it expands, it grows, that it starts to put a strain on local infrastructure. For instance, roads may become congested or trains are become unfunctional, no? Like here in the Philippines, we have what you call infrastructure diseconomies. All right. So that is very clear. And our reference is Paul Boyce, Diseconomies of Scale Definition, 8 types and 5 examples. boycewire.com. Downloaded from this URL address. So again, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching the video. Again, please don't forget to subscribe, share, like the channel. I'll see you next time in my tutorial video. Bye everyone. Keep safe everyone.